I entered a psychiatrist's office to save my life, not knowing I would leave it having lost everything. The story is familiar and simple at first, to the point that anyone would think it could never turn into a nightmare. I'm May, 36 years old, married to Ashraf for 13 full years, and we have a son and daughter, who are my whole world. Ashraf is a very respectable man. Everyone who knows him attests to his character and kindness. Throughout our years of marriage, he never cheated on me. He never insulted me. He never laid a hand on me. He never let me hear a hurtful word. But lately, things started changing without us realizing it. Ashraf is ambitious and loves his work to death. With the rising cost of the kids and life's pressures, he found himself drowned in work all the time. He wasn't around much anymore, and even when he was present, his mind was occupied. With time, the routine and the heavy responsibility I bore alone with the kids, I found myself falling into a dark hole. It started with insomnia, whole days where I wouldn't see a wink of sleep. Then anxiety attacks that would choke me for no obvious reason. I started waking up from sleep terrified, with my heart racing. I would cry for hours just because a glass fell from my hand, or one of the kids raised their voice. I lost my passion for everything. I had no desire to cook, go out, or even talk. Ashraf noticed, of course, and tried his best to help me, but he didn't understand what was wrong with me. When he saw my condition worsening day by day, he began insisting that I see a psychiatrist. At first I refused, telling him I wasn't crazy. It was just a bit of stress that would pass. But with his insistence and my fear for the kids because of my state, I agreed. We asked and searched until Mr. reached a very well-known doctor with a great reputation. Everyone praises his skill and integrity. His clinic is always booked for months. The day of the first session, I was terrified. My hands were shaking and my legs could barely carry me. But as soon as I entered his office, all that fear began to gradually fade. The doctor radiated calmness. His features were soothing, his voice was low, and his tone had a strange tenderness. He greeted me with a quiet smile and seated me in a comfortable spot. He didn't start talking. He let me catch my breath first. When I started speaking, I surprised myself. I thought I would say a couple of words about the insomnia and leave. But his way of listening was enchanting. He never interrupted me, nor did he look at his watch or write on papers, leaving me alone. He was looking into my eyes with genuine interest, nodding as if he felt every pain I had suffered. For the first time in years, I felt that someone was truly hearing me. Someone who wasn't judging me, nor telling me to toughen up and seek forgiveness, nor blaming me for my shortcomings. He gave me a sense of security I hadn't felt in a very long time. I left the first session feeling like a mountain had been lifted off my chest. For the first time in months, I managed to sleep for an hour straight. I waited for the second session with bated breath, and with every time I went, I felt more and more relieved. It began. I told him secrets of my life I'd never shared with a soul, not even my husband. I told him about my childhood, my old fear of being alone, and my relationship with my mother, and about the little problems and the coldness that started to creep between my husband and me because of his busyness. Everything happening in that room suggested that it was a natural, ideal therapeutic relationship. A patient who found the right doctor, who understands her psychological makeup and helps her stand on her own 2 feet, and a doctor devoted to his profession, doing his duty with a conscience. I didn't know that all this calm was just the calm before the storm, and that the threads were beginning to wrap around me very slowly, without me sensing anything strange. Over time, I began to feel that my whole life revolved around the day I went to the clinic. The week moved so slowly as I waited for the hour I'd sit in that chair before the only person who seemed to care about my burdens and sort out the mess inside my head. The change began to happen very slowly, with soft hidden touches, to the degree that it didn't make me suspect a thing. On the contrary, I saw his generosity, morals, and humanity on his part. Normally the session time is strictly timed to the minute, but I began to notice our hour dragging on. We'd be talking, I checked the clock and realized the allotted time was over, yet he'd still be sitting there listening, continuing our discussion with total calm. When I felt embarrassed and said, "I'm sorry, doctor, I've taken more time than allowed," he would smile his calm, composed smile and say, "Your condition and your psychical well-being are more important than any schedule may. I see we're making progress, and I don't want to break your train of thought." His words fell on my heart like an ointment, making me feel I had great value to him as a human being worth caring for. And it didn't stop at just the session time. One day I was having a severe anxiety attack at night, and it was late. I found myself out of sheer distress sending him a WhatsApp message asking about my medication dosage. I was surprised that he replied immediately, and he didn't just give a medical response. He wrote to me, "May, Calm down completely and breathe slowly. If you feel any distress at any time, message me immediately. I am here and monitoring you. Don't worry. That message kept me up all night. I couldn't believe there was a doctor with such mercy. And the situation began to develop. I started getting replies whenever I messaged him late at night. He began asking about my day and my little details even outside of therapy hours. Asking what I did on such and such errand, or whether I slept well last night or not. I, of course, was interpreting all of this as extreme medical care from a doctor who was overly devoted to a difficult case like mine. I didn't understand or realize that in this way he was building a soft prison around me and making me depend on him psychologically. Completely. To the point that I could not make a decision in my day without thinking, I wonder what the doctor would think of this. Hayati. We reached a strange stage, a stage I myself couldn't name or give a title to. The change was like a drop of ink falling into a glass of water. It starts small and light until it changes the color of all the water without you noticing the moment they merge together, Mom. I've spent the whole week just waiting. The day of the session has become the only day I feel alive. I wake up in the morning feeling refreshed, carefully picking my clothes, surprising myself as if heading to something more important than anything at home or with the kids. I began to feel that my day starts better, and my spirit is calmer just by seeing him and hearing his soothing tone. In return, my home started to feel like a strange place to me. My relationship with Ashraf was drifting further apart, but this time, the distance wasn't from him, it was because of me. Ashraf noticed I was starting to calm down and wasn't crying like before. He was happy, thinking the treatment was working and started trying to get close to me again. He would come home early from work specifically to ask, how about we go out for dinner, spobale, and leave the kids at your mother's? Or he would sit next to me trying to open a conversation and check on me. But the shock was that I began to find these attempts heavy on my heart. I stopped seeing him. He doesn't understand me, and he will never be able to. When he spoke, I would compare his words to the doctor's. Ashraf is a practical man by nature. When I told him about a problem, he would look for a quick solution, while the doctor would sit, listen, analyze my feelings, and give me space to vent. I started telling myself Ashraf doesn't feel it, the pain inside me. The doctor is the only one in this whole world who understands me without me speaking. I became present in body only at home. I cook, I wash, and I help the kids with their studies. And I sit with my husband, while my mind and heart are somewhere else entirely. I would remember the doctor's words and his advice, and I began telling him in the sessions about Ashraf's attempts to get close. He would listen, nod his head, and smile, a mysterious smile, and say to me, the important thing is, how do you feel, Mai? Do you see him as capable of filling the void you've had? A question like that would confuse me. And instead of making me try to fix my home, it made me withdraw more and feel that the doctor is my only lifeline in the world. And anyone else outside that room is just a nuisance. I couldn't stand them anymore. After we spent a few months in this situation, the tone started. In the examination room, it changed little by little. The talk was no longer focused on my fatigue, my childhood, or the insomnia that stopped coming like it used to. The doctor started inserting personal talk, words that had absolutely nothing to do with the session or the diagnosis. But he said it in a scientific and composed way, making me take the bait with my eyes closed. In one of the sessions, while I was talking about how I feel a strange sense of safety in his presence, he went silent for a bit and looked at me with a long gaze I had never seen in his eyes before, and said in a very quiet tone, you know, in psychology, it's very natural for a kind of attachment to occur between a patient and their doctor, We call it transference or emotional shift. And that is evidence that the patient has found the space they missed outside. I heard these two words, and I felt my blood heat up and my face flush. But he continued, breaking the boundary completely, when he said, but honestly, when this attachment is mutual and stems from a special human situation like your case, it becomes something else entirely. You're a rare case, Mai, and you have a different place and closeness to me than anyone else. Those two sentences were enough to turn my world upside down. Instead of the doctor putting my words and feelings into their proper professional framework and correcting me or making me understand that this was a delusion caused by my weakness toward him, he encouraged this closeness and opened the floodgates. He started hinting that he thinks about me outside the clinic and that my presence in his life had meaning. For my part, I couldn't see the truth. I was a drowning woman who found a hand reaching out to her, and I thought that what I was feeling was love. The true love that I hadn't found with my husband. The love that had complete acceptance and understanding of my soul. But the bitter truth I didn't know was that this man was exploiting my complete psychological dependence on him. He knew and realized that he had become the air I breathed. So he began to move me like a puppet. I began to enter into a terrible conflict that could move mountains. I wake up in the morning and look at Ashraf's face while he's sleeping. A loyal man, working hard for our sake. And I look at my children, and regret consumes me. I say to myself, what am I doing? I am walking down a dark path, and it must stop right here. Today I will go to the doctor and tell him we must stop these sessions completely. And I spend the whole way to the clinic repeating the words to myself and stealing my heart. But as soon as I enter the room, smell the scent of the place, and he sits in front of me, smiles, and says, I missed you, all my defenses would crumble. I would grow weak in a way that wasn't normal, and I would go back on my words, because the thought of being deprived of him or him disappearing from my life made me feel like I would die from suffocation. It became like an addict who hates the drug and knows it's destroying him, but can't live without it. Its dosage is a daily struggle. It eats away at my health and my nerves. Between my home and my children who are innocent, and between a person I became convinced and deluded that he was the only one who saved my life from death. This secret was like a heavy stone that was stifling my breath. But at the same time, it was the only thing keeping my blood moving in my veins. Our relationship turned into a full romantic relationship, but in secret. And the word secret, here was the real nightmare. Outside the clinic room, I am a mother, a wife, and a homemaker committed to every detail. And inside this room, I am a completely different woman. A woman living on feelings, sweet words, and the attention I was deprived of, or what I deluded myself into thinking I was deprived of, robbed of. Every day that passed by me was like a brutal war inside my head. I wake up at 6 a.m., prepare the kids' lunchboxes, dress them, and kiss them as they leave for school, and sit with Ashraf to drink coffee before he heads to work. Ashraf would look at me with love and gratitude and tell me, thank God, your spirit has returned to you, and you've started laughing again. I am so grateful to this doctor that he returned my wife, my beloved of old, to me. That word would land on my heart like acid. I would feel like I wanted the earth to split open and swallow me, and I would stay. I want to scream and tell him, don't thank me. I am betraying you. I am betraying your trust and your home. I go back to my room and cry until my eyes swell up. I make a firm decision. Enough is enough. I won't go to the next session. I'll turn off my phone and die of exhaustion, just so I don't lose my home. The session date arrives and I try to resist. But the moment my phone rings and I see a message from him saying, May, our appointment is in an hour. I'm waiting for you. Don't be late. I've missed you. I would completely crumble. All the promises and decisions I made to myself, they would just evaporate into thin air. I'd go down, get a ride, and head to him, feeling like I have no will of my own. Like someone walking blindfolded, heading to their own demise. I was completely convinced that this man saved me from death and depression, and that life without him would turn dark and gloomy like before. My psychological dependence on him had reached a pathological stage. I couldn't breathe without hearing his voice or having him reassure me. We stayed like this for a few months, until we reached the middle of the story. And here began the real storm I hadn't prepared for. Suddenly, without any warning, I started to feel the doctor changing. The tender tone, the extreme care, and the midnight messages all started to fade. At first, I thought he was busy or under work pressure, but things went too far. I went to the session on time and found sitting behind his desk, putting a big distance between us, his face cold, and his features stiff, missing the smile I used to fall for. I started talking, telling him about my struggle and the regret eating me up, and I found him answering in a very dry tone. He said, May, we must focus on the treatment. This talk is useless right now. I was shocked. I looked in amazement. I asked him, what's wrong, doctor? Did I upset you? He replied with extreme coldness while looking at his watch. No, nothing. But the session time is limited, and I have other cases outside. I left his place with my blood running cold. I sent him a message at night asking about the reason for his treatment. He didn't reply until the next day at noon, with 2 dry words. I was sleeping. Let's keep communication within the clinic, my world turned black before my eyes. I couldn't understand what was happening. The collapse I was running from came